Hello, good morning. You're watching Proactive London. Joining us today is James Deal, the Chief Operating Officer there at PrimaryBid. So a warm welcome to us here at Proactive London. So first of all, to kickstart this conversation, what is PrimaryBid, James?
Hi, Katie. Well, look, thanks very much for having me. PrimaryBid is a web and app-based solution which gives individual investors fair access to the market, to the public markets, when existing or indeed new companies are raising capital.
And PrimaryBid, it's done a lot of landmark IPOs. Maybe tell us a bit more about these.
So we've been working with UK PLC for the last 4 or 5 years. And over the last 2 years, we've done over 170 transactions here in the UK, working with companies like FTSE companies like Compass Group, Taylor Wimpey, Croda and others, all the way down through to the more colourful end of the AIM market. And we are here to help listed companies gain broader access to existing shareholders and new investors, and to allow companies to raise capital wherever is relevant. Increasingly, as we move through this year, whilst we're seeing a steady flow of accelerated placing, so existing listed companies raising capital, we're also seeing a really good spread of companies seeking to use access to the public markets and indeed the public on the IPO. And so we've run some very exciting offers for the likes of Parsleybox, PensionBee, and Deliveroo, which is the first global in-app IPO. So as a Deliveroo customer, you were able to participate in their IPO. We're soon to go live with the IPO of Soho House for members of that business, listing in New York. We're giving access to the UK members for that transaction. And we work with a really interesting mix of companies around that, such as artisanal spirits. Last year, we had Nightcap, which is a nightclub operator, and Tirupati Graphite was the first company to use us for the IPO process.
And a new IPO went live on Tuesday. This is Media Tech SPAC. Tell us more maybe about the mechanics of the deal then, if you would, please.
Right. I mean, that's an interesting deal because we've all seen a lot of noise around, the SPAC market, particularly in the US. And the UK is now moving to a place where we are able to raise capital for SPAC structures. There are mixed views on the success and relevance of that. But what's really, really interesting is this allows investors to invest in a company at the ground level. And it really is about backing a management team. It's about backing, recognized individuals with a reputation and a track record for success. And I'd say Media Tech SPAC is no exception, with the chair and the executive team having had a very, very successful history, as is played out in the documentation on that transaction. And so this is about backing that team to move their business forwards with a very exciting agenda.
It is exciting, yeah. So maybe tell us a bit more about the retail investor interest that you're getting at the moment and how the markets are shaping up in regards to how much level of IPO or fundraising activity that's going on.
Right. So we talk less and less about retail today and much more about the stakeholders around a business and even, dare I say, the community around a company. So that's customers, its employees, and of course, it's the broader public. And interestingly, today, the attention and engagement from individuals that are seeking access to the public markets as a best-in-class, asset opportunity. Public markets have delivered outsized returns for many years past and recognized for liquidity and regulatory purposes as best-in-class. And for that, you can now buy and sell shares, as you well know, for free, and information is largely available for free. And so it's only right that people can make an informed decision and invest in public markets when it matters, which is typically when companies are raising capital. And to be able to provide fair access on the same terms as the institutions is exactly what PrimaryBid stands for. So we have a pipeline of existing listed companies that will continue to use us, and indeed some really exciting IPOs coming through. The IPO pipeline is very, very thick and full at the moment, more so than any time I can remember in the past. I think that reflects a great deal around the fact that we had a long period of inactivity up until COVID acting as the catalyst. And I think it's very interesting how public markets have performed versus private markets. And it shows you how dynamic access to capital as a public company is a very valuable thing. So I think there's a premium that's now being attached to the benefits of being a listed entity.
You mentioned that thick and full pipeline there, James. In regards to what's next for PrimaryBid, what can we expect?
So we'll continue to serve companies well and indeed connect companies to existing and new shareholders on an IPO. that's a big agenda for us, especially as we look through to the latter part of this year and into next year. We work very closely with the regulator and with industry and treasury on trying to set better and best practice around access for the community around a company, for customers, employees, broader retail, and so on. But as PrimaryBid, besides the equity markets, we have a license to distribute bonds to retail investors. So that's something we're working on for the future. We've been very successful working closely with investment trusts, which in their own right have a big part to play in today's market. And I would implore anyone to keep an eye out for what we're seeing coming through in terms of transactions in the investment trust market. And otherwise, we're moving international. So we've recently launched in France. We have an agreement with Euronext in the same way we are partnered with London Stock Exchange for the UK. And then it makes a lot of sense to take that best practice and take it to other markets internationally, whether it be the US or going east towards Australia and so on. And finally, the only point I'd make is beyond the transaction, what we're here to do is to help companies maintain that connectivity to the shareholders. So really would ask for any of your listeners to let us know if there's anything they'd like to see from companies they're invested in. We're here to help and to act as that conduit, that communication channel between a company and its existing and indeed new shareholders as they come on board.
James Deal, good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed, the Chief Operating Officer there at PrimaryBid.
Thanks very much.